Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for your patience. Thank you for joining us today as we are discussing and having an online discussion about cross-sectoral partnerships in light of our guide published on June 4th, Businesses as Bridging Leaders. Before we get started, I would like to run through a few logistics. So first off, everyone is muted by default. Attendees will stay muted throughout our discussion, and our tech assistant, my colleague here, Max, will be unmuting and muting our featured partners accordingly. If you cannot hear anything, please try dialing in again via the phone. There are instructions in your registration email, or you can also privately chat our tech assistants to see if he can help you out. Lastly, we will be collecting questions via the Q&A function. Participants can submit questions throughout the discussion via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Please direct your questions to a specific partnership, and if time is permitted, our moderator for today, Swati Chaudhary, will channel your questions to the associated partners. If you have any other tech questions, you can also privately chat our tech assistants via the chat function at the bottom of your screen. All right, let's jump into the agenda. We have three main segments for today. We will start with an introduction by our moderator, Swati Chaudhary, who is the Director of Synergos Advisory. We will then have some welcome remarks, and we will provide some highlights from our guide that we published. You can find the full guide on the Synergos website via our Twitter or LinkedIn. We will then dive into some introductions from our featured partners for today, as well as some specific questions about their cross-sectoral partnerships, ending with an open Q&A with time permitting. I now welcome our moderator, Swati, to get us started.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I am part of our social impact advisory practice at Synergos. As an introduction, Synergos is a global organization that builds partnerships and collective action around the world. In our organizational experience of 30 years, we have observed and have been inspired by the increasing leadership of private sector in building and maintaining and harnessing partnerships for social impact, especially towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. As an organization, we are responding to the call specifically from SDG 17 to build and engage in partnerships, whether they be cross-sectoral or multi-sectoral. To that end, we recently published a guide on partnerships for companies, and today we bring you a nuanced discussion on the relationship building aspect of partnerships. We will hear stories from 6 exemplar partners on their journey in relationship building. And to frame this discussion, let's pivot over to SDGs for a little bit. The SDGs make a compelling case for the importance of partnerships, and it has spawned a great volume of literature and dialogue at the nexus of social impact and business benefits. Yet we've observed that cross-sectoral partnerships can be delicate and tricky to navigate, especially when different partner organizations have different, sometimes divergent priorities, structures, pace, and culture. There are many pitfalls, such as imbalanced relationship dynamics, values misalignment, and a general lack of trust. So today we bring you a nuanced discussion on relationship building. This discussion is a standalone event, as well as informed by our recently published guide on the same topic, Business as Bridging Leaders. On the screen, you'll see a few high-level takeaways from the guide, and you're welcome to download a copy from our website, synergos.org. Meanwhile, in alignment with the guide, the conversation today shines light on the types of relationships and behaviors that we feel are at the core of effective partnerships. Characteristics we call bridging leadership, which is a key component in cultivating relationships based on self-awareness, awareness of the system in which we operate, empathy, and trust. Trust is the bedrock of a successful partnership, and fragile partnerships should not be the reason we fall behind on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. But that's Synergos' perspective. Today's conversation is really about the stories from exemplar partnerships outside of Synergos, where private sector has played a leading role and that inspire us to continue doing this work. So without further ado, let me invite our shining examples of featured partners. And let's go in alphabetical order here. Allow me to invite Taryn Barclay and Maria Hinson-Tobin from the Cargill Care Partnership that has endured the test of time of over 60 years. Taryn and Maria?
Hi there, thanks so much. This is Taryn Barclay. So founded in 1865, Cargill's purpose is to nourish the world in a safe, responsible, and sustainable way. With over 155,000 employees in 70 countries, Cargill understands that partnership and collaboration with stakeholders across our businesses and supply chains are critically important. Cargill and Care have collaborated for nearly 60 years on initiatives addressing food security, nutrition, farmer livelihoods in agricultural communities around the world. Initially a 10 million five-year commitment called the Rural Development Initiative, the global partnership sought to help smallholder farmers increase their productivity and household income and address critical education and nutritional challenges among the communities. The partnership has been renewed several times since that founding Rural Development Initiative in 2008.
Hi everyone, this is Maria Hinson-Tobin. In 2018, we celebrated a decade of impact of our global partnership, where we reached over 418,000 people directly and 1.7 million people indirectly through 19 projects in 10 countries. This addressed complex issues spanning smallholder, women's access to markets, women's economic empowerment, nutrition, child labor, education, water, sanitation, and hygiene. And the key has been tackling multiple challenges and creating a holistic approach to working with rural agricultural communities as Care and Cargill aspire to create long-lasting, sustainable impact. We really look forward to our discussion today on our partnership. Thank you.
Thank you both. Moving to our next partner, allow me to invite Catherine Queen from Danone North America, the first and largest multinational that has achieved B Corp certification, and Jose Gazzardi from B Lab, the certifier of B Corp. Catherine and Jose?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Jose Gazzardi. I am the manager of multinational accounts here at B Lab, and B Lab is the nonprofit behind the B Corp certification. Currently, there are over 2,800 certified B Corps across 64 countries and 150 industries. And companies achieve B Corp certification by meeting rigorous verified standards of social and environmental performance, as well as public transparency. And we're very excited and proud of our partnership with Danone, which, among other things, helped us improve our processes to be able to work with large multinational companies. Catherine? Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. Catherine may be having tech difficulties, so why don't...
Can you hear me?
Aha, Catherine. Welcome.
Okay, hi. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Catherine Queen. I'm manager of sustainability here at Danone North America. I co-led our certification for this subsidiary, but actually part of Danone globally. Our company's emphasis on value-based management and socially responsible business really laid the foundation for our partnership with the nonprofit B Lab to become a certified B Corporation. Danone really has shaped its way of doing business based on a commitment to sustainable value creation, articulated in the deepest core vision that we have, which is one planet, one health. And this broader assertion of health of people and the planet are really interconnected. And we really believe that we have a responsibility to advance in both areas. So having this clear values allowed us to intervene across our value chains to become one of the first certified B Corp multinationals, and as you said, the largest in the world for Danone North America.
Thank you both. Allow me to invite our next partnership, and Susan Fairchild and Andy Wolverton and Lisa Vatsky from the partnership of Green Canopy Homes and Washington State Housing Finance Commission. Green Canopy Homes, the only for-profit home builder in the US deliberately founded to fight climate change and resource scarcity, and WSHFC, state government agency aiming to make housing more affordable and accessible. Susan and Lisa?
Hey, this is Andy Wolverton. Thank you for the introduction. I'm the CFO and Director of Fund Management at Green Canopy. And as you introduced, we have Susan Fairchild, the Director of Investor Relations and Impact from Green Canopy, and Lisa Vatsky from the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. She's the Director of Multifamily Housing and Community Facilities. The Commission is a publicly accountable, self-supporting team dedicated to increasing housing access and affordability, to expanding the availability of quality community services for the people of Washington. In addition to housing affordability and access, the organization also seeks to address issues of energy efficiency and sustainability. Green Canopy is a vertically integrated residential developer, general contractor, and fund manager. As an investor-backed company, Green Canopy has successfully developed a scalable platform for acquiring, buying, building, and selling homes in the urban infill walkable communities of Seattle, Washington, and Portland, Oregon. Green Canopy's mission is to build homes, relationships, and businesses that help regenerate communities and environments. And our relationship started in 2012 when the Commission provided an acquisition and construction loan on a project of 3 certified built green remodeled homes in the West Seattle neighborhood. And one of the buyers of those homes used the Commission's lending assistance programs. Since that project, the Commission has supported Green Canopy's growth through providing various direct real estate secured loans on nearly 17% of Green Canopy's sold homes. And these homes are sold within Seattle at an accessible homeownership price. Additionally, the Commission has further fueled Green Canopy's ability to deliver highly efficient homes through providing loss reserve funds for homes that meet a minimum sustainability standard equivalent to LEED Gold or greater. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And next, I invite Ray Waters from Detroit Development Fund, a community development finance institution founded in 1998 in partnership with JP Morgan Chase, one of the largest investors operating in Detroit for over 80 years. Ray?
Thank you. And Stephanie Bosch, who was to be on with me from Chase, had a last-minute commitment she couldn't get out of. So welcome. Yes, I'm the president of the Detroit Development Fund. We are an economic development fund in the city. In 2014, the Kellogg Foundation did a study in Detroit on access to capital and the difficulty of access to capital for minority-owned companies here in Detroit. JP Morgan Chase came on board with us as a partner along with Kellogg, and we raised $4.5 million to lend into the market. At the end of 2017, we'd already lent that capital out, and we relied on our friends from business partners from Chase and Kellogg to bring together other partners. And the collaboration in this program has been phenomenal. One of the reasons it's been phenomenal is because JP Morgan Chase has made a huge commitment to Detroit, is more than willing to share the spotlight with others and other banks to make this program sustainable. So Fifth Third Bank, Liberty Bank, Ralph Wilson Jr. Foundation, and the Kresge Foundation all came together with help from Chase to add an additional $12 million in lending capital and another $5 million for operating and providing technical assistance to the companies that are in our portfolio. The companies we look for are minority-owned companies that are not bankable. At the end, by the middle of July, we will have closed over $8 million in loans to 70 Detroit companies, created 857 jobs for new jobs for Detroit residents, and 56 of the companies we financed are women-owned, entrepreneur of color companies. So we strongly, strongly appreciate the collaboration and the partnership from private business in this. And without it, we would not have reached the level that we've reached to date. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. Wonderful to have you. Next, I invite Eva von Alvensleben from Kering to introduce their partnership with London College of Fashion in a luxury industry brand meets academia in training the next generation of leaders in sustainable fashion. Eva?
Thank you very much, Swati, and thanks. It's my pleasure to be here with you today and share our partnership. I'm Eva van Uivensleben. I'm responsible for global operations and sustainability strategies for the group. We are a global luxury group with houses in fashion, leather goods, jewelry, and watch. And to our portfolio belong brands like Gucci, Saint Laurent, Bottega Veneta, Balenciaga, and Alexander McQueen. We are a truly global company. We have more than 35,000 employees worldwide, and our conviction is that luxury and sustainability are one and the same. And in this realm, I'm very happy to talk today a bit more about our partnership with the London College of Fashion on the developing the next generations of sustainable industry leaders. With this partnership, we were aiming to first help students to learn about sustainability, then also ensuring that they are provided with role models in their industry, in their field, and lastly, also to drive innovation in sustainability for the fashion industry. Happy to talk to you more about later.
Wonderful. Thank you, Eva. And last but not least, one of Synergos' longtime partners, Unilever. I invite Jonathan Gill to introduce the partnership of Transform, which is a large-scale public-private partnership with UK DFID. Jonathan?
Hi everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Unilever, and for those of you who are, I'm sure it's no surprise that we believe in purposeful business, and our purpose is to make sustainable living commonplace. We believe in being a business that takes a stand. It acts on the big social and environmental issues facing the world, one that does more for the good for our planet, not just less harm, and a business that equally and fairly shares our wealth that we create. This isn't anything new. We were founded in the 19th century by William Lever, and he launched one of the first purposeful brands, Sunlight Soap, to address the scourge of cholera in Victorian England. Most recently, and many of you will know, have heard of this, our Sustainable Living Plan set out in 2010 laid out our ambition and our commitments of decoupling our growth from our environmental impact while increasing our social impact. The challenges in 2010 were clear, and they've sadly become more pronounced and more urgent. Every second, 1.5 acres of forest is cut down. Every minute, a truckload of rubbish is dumped into the ocean, and 15,000 children die under the age of 5 every day, and many from diseases that are actually quite preventable or very treatable. And just last month, we heard that 1 million species are headed for extinction, many within a decade. And so we are firm believers in taking action to address the big social issues and environmental issues of our time. We do this through partnerships as a central tenet of what we do. It's absolutely core. We can't do anything that many of the things that we want to do alone. We have to work with partners, and we also have to use the strength of our business to have the most impact. And we all know that business is a huge creator of wealth. And increasingly, that's been recognised by the development agencies around the world. We set up a large partnership with the UK Department for International Development to really help stretch our business to be able to reach those at the bottom of the pyramid and uplift them. They're both their economic well-being, but also their health through the products and services they buy, and also do it in a cleaner and more environmentally friendly way. And through Transform, this partnership, we're aiming to reach 100 million people by 2020, and prove that you can make sustainable businesses that serve the bottom of the pyramid.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you, everybody, for the introductions. I know we've had individual rounds of conversations leading up to the guide and leading up to today. But I, for one, am blown away by the diversity and the collective sense of social impact and sustainability in this room and on this webinar. So thank you so much for joining us. Let's dive into the discussion part of today. And let's use the same alphabetical order to invite our partners to talk a little bit about the relationship building, relationship maintenance, and the nuances of partnerships. So let me invite Cargill and Care. And Taryn and Maria, for your first question, could you describe the process of articulating your shared values with each other? What are some of your shared values and how have they translated into impact in your rural development initiative?
Sure, thank you so much. This is Maria Henson-Tobin. So Care and Cargill have collaborated, as you know, for nearly 60 years, but it was about 11 years ago that we moved from a philanthropic relationship to a more purposeful strategic shift in how Care and Cargill partner. And that strategic shift really enabled our work together to be more impactful across the 10 countries that we've been working in around the world. And so what did we do? We spent time understanding the partnership's value, and in doing so, we began to jointly design programs together, designing impact measurement together, and agreeing on reporting. And we've learned a lot along the way. Determining mutual value is an ongoing process. Partners need to continuously look for ways to improve and create longer lasting, deeper impact for both themselves and the people they serve. And to be authentic internal communication that goes beyond delivering quarterly reports. It's about honest feedback, mutual trust, respect, and equality. Partners really need space to become friends and trusted advisors, and this requires that they invest in the human relationships that underpin the partnership and take time to explore those shared values, the opportunities and risks beyond the boundaries of partnership activities. And so it also has to be clear upfront what each organization wants to achieve. For example, Cargill sought to invest in communities in proximity to its operations or its sourcing, while Care sought to leverage unique resources of the private sector to realize its mission to end extreme poverty. And so finding that sweet spot of mutual objectives is critical to relationship building because it's clear what each organization contributes to make the combination so much more powerful than going at it alone. And one example of how our shared values have strengthened our partnership. So throughout our partnership, one of the cornerstones of our work together has been measurement and learning. And after the first 5 years of our strategic partnership, we realized that while we are monitoring our program's reach and impact, it was really difficult to say how our programs were creating actual long-term and systemic change. And we really want to tell a bigger story. So since then, we've built in robust monitoring and evaluation systems to capture evidence, learning, and lessons from the field, to capture impacts rather than just numbers, to better inform our work, to improve the quality of our programs, and ultimately to deliver sustainable impact.
Thank you so much. That's, I picked up on something you said, that you invested in building trust and getting to know each other early on. Could you tell us how this helped pay off in the later stages of the partnership?
Sure, this is Taryn from Cargill. So absolutely, we realized very early on that mutual trust and respect was really going to be to meaningful collaboration, because our partnership is complex and multi-layered. It operates at a global and a local level. So we have to make sure that there is trust at every level. And building that early on really enabled us to co-create and be committed to the continuous improvements in our initiatives. I also think what it did as we got to really know each other and build that trust is that it opened up a recognition for each other's capabilities and perspectives and how that could be even more tapped into. So for example, as Care got to know us in Cargill, they could tap into some of the technical expertise that our teams could contribute to the smallholder farmer aspects, while Care continued to share with us their deep knowledge and experience of community development and issues like gender equality. So the stronger that trust and engagement between partners, the more able we're actually to tap into each other's expertise and to really learn from each other. And that really helped us in some of those lessons learned and some of the things that maybe we had to adjust as we went, or sort of reflect on, if we were on the right path together. And I think we were able to have those candid and open discussions, and that really helped to even further strengthen the partnership. And I think what was really helpful is that we built those beneficial goals, roles, and responsibilities, and ultimately provided holistic solutions that address multiple program objectives rather than just looking at it from a single intervention perspective. So overlapping global presence, a shared commitment to responsible business and long-term view, as well as common core values and culture, have led to what Claire and Cargill now consider a model partnership.
Thank you so much. I really liked the candid and open discussion bit to build deeper trust. It really shows it of how you've had this long enduring partnership of over 60 years. Thank you both. Let's go to Danone North America and B Lab. And I invite Catherine from Danone North America. Catherine, Danone North America is now the largest company to reach B Corp certification. Being such a trailblazer, what do you believe is the largest barrier for other multinationals to follow this path? And could you also tell us a little bit about your role on the B Lab multinationals and the Public Markets Advisory Council?
Yeah, of course. So before we became certified, in answer to your first question, I would say that one of the largest barriers for big companies, especially those who are publicly traded at least, was having another example of a large successful company who actually took the leap to redefine success in business amongst so many seemingly competitive priorities in the business environment. Now that we've taken the leap, honestly, like you said, becoming a trailblazer, we've really worked both internally and externally to share best practices with other companies. We've developed tons of different policies and programs internally so we can integrate the values of B Corp at their deepest level while still driving a successful business to hopefully break down any barriers or fears that may exist in starting a B Corp journey. One of the barriers that many peers or other companies that I've heard from who we are in the midst of sharing best practices with when they start their journey at least, is understanding how the process can be adopted for their own teams and their own company culture so they can not only complete the assessment in an efficient way, but also in a very meaningful way. So most recently, we actually provided B Lab the tools that I created that we used when we were doing our own journey. Everything from how to run good kickoff meetings, collecting data, and other guides that we developed to really help our own process. I always encourage companies when we are speaking to them who see barriers to not be afraid to ask B Lab or other B Corps such as Danone North America. I take these phone calls and emails all the time. We really believe we're in this movement together, so you're not alone, and we're more than happy to help when you see those barriers. With regards to the multinationals, though, and Public Market Advisory Council, I think it's really important to note that Danone's overall partnership objective with B Lab, and then subsequently becoming a founding member of this council, is critical to the journey we're on to make our entire global Danone business B Corp certified by 2030. It's a really big endeavor, and no other multinational food and beverage company has done this to date. But beyond our own certification work for this council, we're genuinely believe in the greater mission and even the larger system-focused vision to help build this movement of change agents, especially in the business world. So because of this, I really believe our role and then that of others in the council, at least, is important as we work together with B Lab. We're constantly sharing feedback of what it takes to redefine success in business and how the process of certification can not only be adapted for larger companies, but also, and maybe even more importantly so, keep maintaining high standards of accountability, transparency, and performance. So it keeps pushing us all, especially the larger companies, and really everyone in the movement, to be an even greater force for good. Our participation in this council has already actually resulted in more rigorous standards, a more streamlined process, especially for large multinational companies, and even more interest from other companies who are looking to join the movement. For us, this is what the movement is about, really pushing one another for global business change. And for this to happen, this council represents a way we can do this in a meaningful way. I mean, exactly in line with the topic of the webinar and what we've been discussing about, you know, councils like this, partnerships like this really provide a way for us to create a bridge for others to join us in such an important movement.
Absolutely. And I echo your sentiment that being ambitious and sharing examples with others is so important for movement building and collective action. So thank you so much for sharing today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And if I can invite Danone North America's counterpart, B Lab, Jose, we wondered how you tailored the B Corp certification for a large company like this. How did you co-create this process together? And you know, along this process, and now that the largest multinational is on board, what is exciting about it and what changes are you anticipating?
Thank you. I think the partnership with Danone really represented a key milestone for our movement. It allowed us to learn together about what it takes to certify a company of the size of Danone North America. We streamlined a lot of our processes and learned about the complexities of working with large multinational companies. And as Catherine mentioned, you know, through our multi-stakeholder, multinational public markets advisory council, which included Danone as well as other stakeholders, we were able to create a pathway for these companies to pursue certification that resulted in an even more rigorous standards for certification that we just launched last month. But what excites me the most about this partnership is that Danone demonstrated that although it's not easy, it's possible for large mainstream companies to pursue certification and consider the interests of all stakeholders, not just their shareholders. And now other multinational companies are following the steps of Danone and starting their certification journey. And in addition to certification, next year we're launching a sustainable development goal platform in partnership with the UN Global Compact, where companies will be able to use our assessment to map their impact against the SDGs.
Great.
And we're very proud to say that Danone will be one of the 100 contributors to support this program. And we can't wait to see how this partnership continues to progress over time. So very excited and proud of this partnership.
That is exciting. Onward and upward. Thank you both for sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Let's go to Green Canopy Homes and Washington State Housing Finance Commission partnership. To Susan and Lisa, we have been blown away by your internal process of articulating your organizational values, especially at Green Canopy, Susan. Can you share with us what that internal process looks like and why it was so important to you to go through that process? And Lisa, directed to you, how did Green Canopy Homes values show up within your partnerships? And did it help them show up as a good partner and in what way? So Susan first and then Lisa.
Thank you, Swati. So yeah, we, on an annual basis, we gather together all of our employees for a half day to really reevaluate how we want to work together and what our values are. It really provides an opportunity for all of our team members to shape the values that we live into on a daily basis. We bring in 2 external leadership consultants to help facilitate that conversation so that everyone can participate and that we can all walk away feeling as though we can see ourselves within those values. What's really important about that, though, is that we actually put it to practice. So on a monthly basis, the same 2 consultants come in to provide leadership training for us so that we can actually put to practice topics such as developing authentic communication and how to develop empathy, so that when we're actually in conversation with our stakeholders, such as subcontractors, investors, real estate agents, kind of you name it, we can really put it into practice on a regular basis. And then we also, twice a year, actually hold our employees accountable to those values. So rather than really evaluate our employees on their performance, we actually evaluate them through a 360 review process on their values. And all of the employees have the opportunity to participate in reviewing their fellow colleagues in that regard. And then finally, I would say one of the expectations that we really hold for our employees is that all employees can actually influence the organization and other people within. We see them all as leaders as opposed to, really using our titles as dictators for leadership.
I love what you said about evaluating on the 360-degree evaluations on values. We all need to do that. So thank you so much for sharing. And Lisa.
This is Lisa Batsky from the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. And when we first got the chance to meet the folks from Green Canopy, and over time in developing that relationship, it was really clear that they brought vision and competency to the table, and that's what really established our trust with them. And really being able to identify strengths and weaknesses, knowing what they were good in, and again, through that authentic communication, really working with us to kind of pick our brains about our expertise. And there was clearly this kind of constant feedback. We'd have meetings where they'd come and propose, an idea, and we'd kind of talk through it and give them all this feedback. And then, we'd meet again, and it was clear that they had kind of adapted and used all of that information to kind of reshape what they were thinking. So I think that curiosity, that authentic innovation, just really being clear about kind of the strengths and the weaknesses and what expertise we could provide, and seeking that expertise, and then showing us that they had really kind of taken that all in and reshaped their thinking, I think was really paramount to the success of the partnership.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We at Synergos also value curiosity very much. And in partnership search, we advise our constituents to partner with those who welcome their curiosity. So so we echo your sentiment. Thank you so much. And one more question for Andy, and Lisa, jump in to chime in. How did working together on smaller projects, we understand you started off small, provide a solid foundation for the current partnership that is tackling the large, broad issues of affordable housing and climate change? And from your experience, what advice can you give to new partnerships in establishing this foundation of trust?
Yeah, so the smaller loans that we started in the beginning of our partnership got our teams into a flow of communication and learning how to work best together. And then during those projects, we set up a routine of intentionally meeting at least once a quarter, even if we didn't have a specific topic to address. And that's something that Lisa was referencing, in that these meetings provided the space to listen to each other, learn what the other was working on, and then really to spark ideas, or spark our curiosity about what we were really seeking to achieve in the future. And that allowed us to move on to larger and more impactful ideas. And those routine meetings are some of the best advice that I could give to new partnerships, and to seek regular communication, even if there are no action steps to specifically discuss. And then additionally, if or when issues arise, because we know they are bound to arise, address them head on and early. And I think Susan noted one of our values is authentic communication, and with key mantras under that value that include seek first to understand and have hard conversations now. And there were times during our partnerships where projects or our intentions did not have outcomes that went as planned. And that was mostly on the Green Canopy side. And we had to work to have early and open conversations with the commission to identify potential solutions. And I believe that having that regular communication set up as a structure by way of meeting quarterly helped establish that trust. I don't know what you might add, Lisa.
Yeah, I would just add that, it was really important that Green Canopy came to us when there was potential issues that we could kind of work through together. But, you know, as a lender, there's nothing more impactful than taking a risk and actually getting repaid. So, you know, those early loans, I think, you know, we were kind of skeptical. Okay, would this really work itself out? Like, would, you know, we're willing to take this risk, but not at a big level, at a small level at first. And having those successful repayments really did help to then build that confidence that we could invest and risk more each time with different types of creative financing. So, and, you know, to continue to achieve both of the goals that we were trying to set out, because not only, you know, did we want to try to achieve energy efficiency, but also affordable home ownership. So we continue to kind of work on those key missions that we had together. So yeah, I think, again, being able to do that upfront, a brainstorming, and then knowing when there was troubles that we could kind of seek solutions together.
That's wonderful. Taking risks and getting paid. I agree. And what you said, Andy, about authentic communication, seeking first to understand, and having hard conversations now, with an emphasis on now. Thank you so much for sharing. And next, let's go to JP Morgan Chase and Detroit Development Fund. And Ray, I would love to invite you to, I'm wondering, you know, your partnership has gained so much traction in Detroit. It's attracted an impressive number of partners to join the fund. Why did you feel that it was important to bring others along in the first place? And how did you convince others or corral others to join you?
Well, we've been doing this in Detroit, lending to small businesses that aren't able to get bank financing for a very long time. And when the Kellogg Foundation came to us with their study, which we knew because we're in Detroit and we'd already probably over the years lent 60% of our capital to minority-owned companies. But when they did the study and we really sat down and looked at it, we understood that this was a large project here in Detroit, and one that we simply couldn't do by ourselves without funding and without collaboration. So that's when Kellogg reached out to JP Morgan Chase, and they came on board, and as I said, very open to sharing the spotlight with others, and that was really important to grow this business. The other part of the collaboration is that it's just the capital raising and the lending. We have been able to form partnerships with a variety of organizations here in the city who help these small companies before they get a loan and after they get a loan. And then, as importantly, when JP Morgan Chase came into town and we worked with them, we also were able to work with the mayor of Detroit and the city. The collaboration and the cooperation that the city has given us has been a vital part of the growth of this fund. I agreed with what they said a little bit earlier. When we started this with Kellogg and with Chase, we all sat down and kind of set out our expectations. And one of the things we've learned here over the years is never overpromise and underdeliver. So we set some expectations. And as Chase was kind enough to come back into the market and talk to the Fifth Third Bank and talk to Liberty Bank and Ralph Wilson Jr., in addition to us, and bring them on board. So we are now setting up quarterly meetings where we give updates all the time. But the key for all of this is what the previous individuals said. It's communication between the partnership. And if we don't communicate our part well on what's going well and what's going poorly, then we can't solve the things that are going poorly. And that's what's been, I think, a real plus for us. And the collaboration is being able to sit down and go through it. And you know, $8 million in lending capital to entrepreneur of color companies in Detroit over the last 2.5, 3 years is a good standard. We think we'll get double that within the next few years. And as importantly, because of the work that we've done with Chase and with others, and our understanding of this high-risk lending, so far we've only lost 2 of the Entrepreneur of Color companies that haven't been able to make it. The rest of them are there, they're adding companies, they're growing, and some that have just grown incredibly because of the work that all of our collaboration has been able to do to help them.
Thank you, Ray. I really liked what you said about bringing others along with you and leveraging your current partnership to do that for capital as well as for general economic development. There's just more in numbers. Detroit landscape has been ever changing, especially since the inception of your agency. And of course, you have long-term plans in Detroit, as does JP Morgan Chase. But we've been impressed with the partnership's flexibility to the changing needs of the community. Can you tell a little bit about how you designed flexibility into the partnership model, given that you knew you were going to be there for the long haul?
Yeah, and that was an important piece because things have changed. Years ago when we were doing single-family rehab financing for organizations and the market went completely south and the city after bankruptcy, we knew that down the road there would still be an opportunity to do that. So we early on with Chase a couple of years ago, when the market started coming back, they provided us with a grant to provide down payment assistance for Detroit residents to buy homes in the city because the appraisals weren't as high as the pricing. And that program was not what we typically did. But having said that, the down payment assistance program was done as a grant, forgiven over 5 years if the person who bought the house lived in the house for 5 years. And out of that, we now have 21 single moms that own a home that couldn't have ever purchased a home before without this program. So it's trying to understand and sit and talk about what is next and what's going to happen down the road. It's a little difficult in Detroit to plan that ahead, but we're seeing the housing market come back. We're seeing the city and all of us working together on now working in neighborhoods outside of downtown, in Detroit, but outside of downtown proper, to stabilize those neighborhoods. And we bring in our CDFI partners to do that. Some do the real estate. We do the small business lending and small real estate. And so there are a group of us that are about 10 CDFIs that can get together in one community and each do what we do, but put it all together so that it has a serious impact on the stabilization.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much, Ray. Let's go next to Kering and London College of Fashion. Eva.
Hello.
Hi. As kind of a unique industry academia partnership, you've established a model for engaging young leaders on the issues of sustainability. How did you navigate some of the changes in the partnership in a way that kept your long-term vision intact, but also allowed you to pivot your strategy in the short term, especially considering that this was a little bit of a prototype?
Yes.
So, tell us.
No, exactly. I think our idea at the very beginning, more than 5 years ago, before we started this partnership, was really to look more to the young generation and build partnership across boundaries. So first in the fashion industry, it's a very fast-paced industry, and 5 years are an eternity to us. So it's a lot of changes that can happen into 5 years. There are a lot of collections produced within 5 years. But we really wanted to take a commitment for 5 years in order to really take a long shot on this one. Mm-hmm. And it was really, really dear to our hearts, because when we look as Kering to sustainability issues, we look at the next generations, which are going to be our next CEOs, our next creative designers, and our next customers in a way. So we really wanted to have a say and help them to become more sustainable in their approach. And that's when we founded, well, probably more than 5 years ago, this partnership, which allowed us with this long-term time frame really to take it step by step and really build the partnership on very solid ground. So it allowed us really to test things, to pilot things, to come back to each other and kind of think of, is that the right way how we took it? Should we do it differently? Especially because it was such a strange animal, at least in our industry. Working together with academia is very new in the way academia thinks and in the way we think. These sometimes are really, really different. We most of the time think in timelines and deliverables and deadlines and whatever, whereas academia has a very different approach to things. And I think it was really, really crucial to be synchronized along the way, accept that this is a pilot for both sides, and really check in regularly to see whether this is going into the right direction or where we can adapt or improve in any other way.
No, you're right. The two are so different in nature and pace and the way that you work. And it's wonderful to hear about the strategies that you put in place. We also learned through conversations with you that many LCF alumni are now working at Kering. So it's kind of a pipeline for you as well. How has forming these interpersonal relationships helped strengthen the partnership of the organizations?
I think it's key. And I think that's just also my recommendation for partnerships and working collaboratively. The people behind the jobs and the positions are key. So I think really when I met Dilys William, who's the founder of the Center for Sustainable Fashion, I deeply respected her very thoroughly and really thought that she's a person you can work with. So I think this is really something which also comes back to people in a way, right? And I think this was really key to it, because I think sustainability in the fashion world is still a niche area in many different ways. So it is something where you need the willingness and the power of people to go beyond what you normally do and try new things. So obviously, we have been very lucky that two of our sustainability directors and two of our brands come from the London College of Fashion. And obviously, they have been trained throughout the partnership as well. And they obviously came in and back again and could actually share their experience now working on the industry side and coming from academia, how actually the both worlds fit together. But I think that was really something that we also as Kering, as a company, learned from this partnership, is that you need to respect also different approaches to different issues, and you can actually learn along the way. And it's such an enriching experience to challenge yourself with a completely different world. And together, I think you can do amazing things. So we're really happy about it.
Yeah, that's great. You know, one of the recommendations in the guide is get personal, that get to know the individual who has a history, expertise, skill set, but also a story, and get to know them on a personal level, because at the end of the day, it's just people working with people to make partnerships work. So we definitely echo your sentiment, and I know that this has been one of the themes that has come out from all of the partnership conversations. So thank you so much for sharing today. All right, last but not least, let's go to Jonathan at Unilever.
So, hi, everyone. Sorry.
Hi, Jonathan. No worries. You know, we're talking today about the partnership called Transform. And the vision directly addresses the investment gap in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And we know that this has been a point of conversation on many, many levels, globally, as well as in many countries, nationally, as well as on hyper-local levels. What was the process by which Unilever and DFID came to this shared vision of closing the investment gap? And can you tell us a little bit about how the partnership assesses and communicates its impact towards the SDGs?
Sure. I think first things first, we've had a long-standing relationship with DFID. You know, we are headquartered in the UK, and so good relationship here. But I think after as the SDGs were coming together, which Paul Polman was central to, he was one of the SDG advocates in putting into that development. we realized we wanted to kind of base our relationship around that. So our previous CEO, Paul Polman, and the then Secretary of State, Justine Greening, signed effectively an MOU, letter of intent, to work in a more strategic and coordinated way to leverage the skills and capabilities, expertise that we have within our organizations, two very different organizations. And in September, as the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted, so we signed this letter of intent in the run-up to UNGA, and then in September 2015, when the SDGs were adopted, Justine Greening and Paul Polman announced a new partnership called Transform, which is focused on creating jobs, increasing income, improving the health and well-being of 100 million people by 2025. It seeks to unlock the power of markets through partnership. It was set up and operationalized in 2016 and 2017 and scaled in 2018. So the process was really one of understanding a big shift in the external agenda around the SDGs, being prepared for it, working closely to identify what we could do together, where we have strengths, where we have weaknesses, where the other has strengths and weaknesses, and where we complement one another, and building something that is sustainable for both organizations. So for us, it's helping us grow our business and have a social impact, while at DFID, it's helping them to achieve their overarching goals from development perspective, but also from a trade perspective. We assess our impact towards the SDGs by partnering with an independent monitoring and evaluation organization who supports us by tracking the impact and defining our success. We take the uptake of our learnings by others is really an important part of Transform. I think in the introduction I said that we really wanted to prove that business approaches can have a significant impact. Well, first off, business models can work at the bottom of the pyramid, and secondly, they can have a significant impact in uplifting people out of poverty. And so sharing these learnings will really amplify the impact that we can have. And at the moment, actually, we are really kind of ramping up this strategy to accelerate the dissemination of our learnings in the back end of this year and also in 2020. So we'll be sharing more of that in the coming months.
Thank you, Jonathan. So in essence, you're saying that good partnerships are symbiotic, and that they bring in not just expertise from both sides, but also benefits for both sides.
Absolutely. It's got to work for both, and you've got to need one another, because if you don't need one another, then it's quicker and easier to do it yourself. And so there needs to be that. Yeah, you need to have that symbiotic relationship. I think that's an excellent word to describe it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Transform is a large-scale $52 million public-private partnership, making a long-term stake in the ground. And this is one of my favorite partnership questions. I hope it's yours as well. But what did the partnership enable you to achieve, especially in terms of scale in this context, that you couldn't have achieved alone?
Well, $52.2 million is a lot of money, and blended finance instruments like this is really important for us to be able to reach the scale that we want to achieve. So bringing our own money and bringing in money from DFID and other sources is really central. So to get to that scale, it's really important to increase the investment. I think secondly, I think there's an important piece around ensuring that we keep focus on that shared objective. I think when you are just operating on your own as an organization, you can often be swayed by the internal dynamics, the changes that day to day within an organization, whether that's structural or strategic, and you can kind of lose your focus quite easily. When you're working with a big partner, especially one like in the public sector, then it's more difficult to do that. You need to keep your focus. You need to keep aligned, because driving changes is much more challenging. so that's for me is the two big things. It's keeping focus and driving investment. And I think in terms of delivery, there's also, because it's a long-term program, DFID are focused on programs that probably have a longer lifespan than Unilever is normally used to be frank. It means that we can support organizations through turbulent few years, sort of the teenage years, as we sometimes describe them. And now we've got organizations like Kasha, which is a confidential direct-to-consumer offline and online e-commerce platform in Kenya, where essentially it sells women's health, hygiene, and personal care products that they don't normally have access to. And Kasha took a long time to get going, but now it's really ramping up. And by the end of 2018, it delivers to 34,000 consumers in Rwanda, 90% of those who are really at the bottom of the pyramid. And so you get through those early early stages of teething problems, and then you can really unleash the growth. And having some wider capital to kind of manage the risk really enables you to keep focus and get through those tricky few years.
So graduating from teenage years into adulthood, Kasha.
Absolutely, or from teething to teenage years, maybe.
Well, congratulations. You know, one of the things that has come up in all of the conversations with all 6 partnerships, and especially from Unilever, is the importance of senior leadership in driving this. So to that end, we have on the line one of the senior leaders from Unilever, proponent of business for social good, a board member of Synergos, and the former chief sustainability officer at Unilever, Jeff Seabright. Jeff, would you like to add a few words?
Sure. Thank you so much, Swati, and thanks to you and Leah, Henri, and the whole Synergos team for this amazing report, and a huge thank you to all the leadership companies that have contributed both on this call and in the work for the report that's now out on this really important topic. So thank you all for sharing those amazingly rich insights. And hello, Jonathan, my former colleague. I as of last month, am no longer the Chief Sustainability Officer at Unilever, but Rebecca Marmot has taken on that role and is continuing to lead a vibrant, dynamic team there at Unilever. Maybe I could just say a few general words about the importance of what we're talking about today, because I think we've heard some extraordinary insights and really motivational examples of how partnerships can help drive impact and business benefit. But I think that the leading businesses in today's world are beginning to really move beyond a kind of a CSR approach to how they think about their role in the world, to a more ingrained approach to how to drive business through impact and vice versa. So sort of moving a little bit beyond the kind of photo op annual report approach to doing good things. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But at kind of a deeper, more strategic level of really aligning with civil society and other partners and finding ways to drive real value in that deeper kind of shared benefit model. And I think that's what we've begun to see in the examples today. And I think that's the opportunity. And it really, in a sense, kind of requires businesses to think about redrawing the boundaries of their business ecosystem to unlock this greater potential, this greater opportunity. I think most companies have long looked at their suppliers, the sort of leveraging their supply chain for innovation and new approaches to how they can improve the business. That's a form of partnership within a commercial partnership. Open innovation is kind of well established as a means of reaching beyond the four walls of an R&D organization internally to access the best externally. And we're seeing so much of this with crowdsourcing and new approaches. And I think when we think about the word partnership, it really is kind of partnership 2.0, which is beyond CSR to this sort of deeper business value creation approach that unlocks the energy, the investment, the insights, the expertise, and the credibility that we've heard about on the call today from other partners to help businesses succeed, not just in being profitable, critical as that is, but in having and driving real impact. So I think this is an emerging area of strategic advantage, strategic competitive advantage, so to speak, of driving real value. I think it's also stepping back. If you take a range of challenges that we face, from kind of the climate crisis to some of the inequality and economic distribution of benefits, and challenges around so many aspects of this broadly defined sustainability agenda, that we really do need to bring the business community to the face of these challenges, and hence the SDGs, sort of the world's roadmap for where we want to be in 2030. And the reality is that that's not going to happen just with governments, because the vast majority of jobs, of capital investment, and real decisions around what's going to drive the real economy to deliver the kind of world we want is in the hands of the private sector. Obviously with a huge role for government, but private sector has an enormous role, and I think increasingly important role to play in helping lead the charge on that. And I think that is impossible for businesses to do credibly or effectively unless they're in real partnership. So I think that's kind of, the world needs this. I think business needs it. Some businesses, certainly those on this call, understand that. Others I think are beginning to, and it's my hope and strong conviction that the 30 years of experience that Synergos brings to this, through the bridging leadership approach to collaboration and building trust that's been at the heart of Synergos for 3 decades, can really help businesses expand and deepen the benefit that they draw from these kinds of partnerships. So I think it really is a strategic issue for businesses to think about this as well beyond sort of CSR to really integral to business strategy. I know that's very much how we approached it at Unilever, and really looking to make partnership a central feature of our go-to-market strategy with brands and with our corporate commitments. So I just want to again salute Synergos for the effort, and for those companies on the call and those that and contributing to the report. But also to just say to those listening in on the call that I think Synergos represents a great asset in this space, and for those who are looking to deepen their approach to partnership, I would highly recommend follow up with Leah and Swati and the team at Synergos to explore what we at Synergos might do to help support your success. So with that, I will hand it back, Swati.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you for the shout out. And aye to the world needs more businesses like this, and the world needs more bridging leaders. And folks, we have a few questions on the line from the audience. And I wondered if we have a question that I think would be applicable to all of our companies online. So I wondered if I can say the question, and we can sort of go in reverse alphabetical order this time. And the question is that what are the plans, or do any of the partnerships have plans for next stage engagements? And kind of grounded in your learnings so far, is there anything that you are planning to do differently, and what would you continue in your next stage? So how about we go to Unilever first?
So sorry, could you repeat the question? I heard you say Unilever, and that was all I heard.
Sure thing. Do you have any plans for next stage engagements beyond what you are already doing? And what would you do differently? And what might you continue?
Oh wow, big question. So I mean, Transform is one partnership that we are involved in within Unilever. As Jeff mentioned, partnership is really kind of a critical enabler for what we do. And as we come to the end of the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan at the end of next year, we are redefining kind of what our future sustainability strategy looks like. And you know, you'll be hearing more about that over the next few months. But the commitment remain high and probably be higher than previous. And everything that's in this sort of draft strategy that we're developing, you know, again, we can't do on our own. We need to partner. We either need to partner with NGOs, governments, our suppliers, citizens, people, to make these changes. And also, you know, the one thing that I think we often forget about is the importance of partnering internally. You know, Unilever's 150,000 people. That's huge. And then there's 3 million in our value chain. You know, so different parts of Unilever operate very differently. And so you often need these kind of similar principles about working together inside organizations as well as outside organizations. For Transform, we are, as I think we mentioned, we're entering a kind of learning phase and sharing those learnings. So I think we've invested in around 50 organizations, and we're keen to, and we've been extracting all the learnings from them, and we will be disseminating them to our partners, to other organizations, hopefully through Synergos as well, so we can share those learnings. And so when other people enter this arena of impact investing, they can learn the lessons that we had and make sure they don't make any of the same mistakes. And I think the main learning that we've had from a business perspective is to manage expectations. Investing in startups and social enterprises requires you to think, you know, you need to think, you know, 2 to 3 years. You need to go from teething to teenage years. And a business, especially an FMCG, a fast-moving consumer goods company, thinks in 2 to 3 months a lot of the time. And so people love the idea, they get excited by it, and they want to see action results straight away. And actually, it takes time, and you need a little space to do that. And you need to really explain that and get that understood by the business, so they don't lose any faith in what you're doing. And that was certainly a challenge for us at the start. But now, as the program's become embedded and really is you know, a part of the business, you know, my colleague Julie, who runs this day to day, she was just in Bangladesh, and you know, the CEO of Bangladesh was on holiday, and he came back and had dinner with Julie because he's so excited about some of the projects. So, you know, the more it gets embedded, more people understand how these things they work. But expectation management at the start is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And also point taken about internal partnerships. Thank you so much. And Eva, let me repeat the question just in case. What are some of your plans for next stage engagement? And I'm particularly interested in hearing what you might do differently going forward.
Yes, happy to share. So I think one of the next steps that we immediately realized along the way is that we were teaching to a very limited bunch of students within a classroom. And Kering, in all our approaches, what we do with sustainability, we're very much about open sourcing, whether we open source our environmental profit and loss account or we open source our new material guidelines. It's really about sharing, because we very much believe in the fact that you don't actually advance as a single company or even as a group as we are, but you really need to actually make it open source. So what we did quite recently is that we opened up this course to an online community. So we took it from the classroom to online, and with an amazing respondents of more than 10,000 people having taken it at the first intake, and again around 10,000 at the second intake. So really our ambitions for this partnership are now to go globally. The question comes to a good moment, because we're right now actually currently reviewing a little bit how we can take that forward. Obviously, with a 5-year partnership, the ambitions get bigger as well. We want to reach more young people and help them to understand sustainability. And I think there it will be really crucial to use the new media, but also focusing again on a global audience. So stay tuned. I'm sure there are more to come, but we're currently in discussion.
Yeah, sounds great. Looks like you're going higher and higher tech. Thank you so much. And how about Ray? Ray, what plans do you have going forward, and what would you do differently? Or what are you planning to do differently?
Well, we're planning to go down the same road of providing more capital to these here in Detroit, entrepreneur of color companies. But I think one of the things that we've noticed that we didn't do well to start with, we now have like 70 companies in this loan portfolio, and there's a whole area of commerce, and we haven't gotten them together very well. So we're starting quarterly meetings and events for all of the EOC customers to get to know each other, to get to understand each other. We did that with 2 or 3 earlier last month, and they're all contractors, and now they're all bidding together on larger projects in the city than they could have before. So I think it's that engagement between our loan customers that we just kind of forgot about how important that was. So I think that's critical. The other thing we're going to add to our mix, I think, is I say this a lot, putting the money in is the easy part. It's what you do before and afterwards. It makes a big difference to these companies. So we're reassessing how we provide business technical assistance to those who've already closed the loan for. I mean, many of them need public relations help. They need marketing help. They need accounting help. So we're putting together a collaboration of groups of organizations who will be able to work with them even on a higher level after they close a loan. So those are 2 things we think will be helpful as we go forward. And then, as you know, JP Morgan Chase has expanded the EOC program to other cities based on the, I would say, the success of the pilot here. San Francisco and Brooklyn and others. And I think what they've learned that's really important as you enter a market, you really need to find a local organization that understands the market, understands the small business lending world, and has done it before. And they've been successful in finding those CDFI groups in other cities. But if you just walk in and don't know the market, it's a really tough road to handle. So those are the things that I see.
Yeah, wonderful. So you're starting collaboration of groups and orgs and doing convenings and community building. You are right in the Synergos wheelhouse, Ray. Thank you so much for sharing. And Green Canopy Homes and Washington State Housing Finance Commission, what are your plans and what would you do differently?
Hi, this is Andy again. You know, we're in an interesting spot right now where one avenue that we've gone down with our partnership is starting to wind down by the end of this year, and we recently had an idea that was unsuccessful in coming to fruition. So we're in a spot where we are seeking out the next step, and in fact, in this process of preparing with you, we realized that we needed to schedule our next regular meeting. So we got that on the calendar for next month, where we will be exploring our next our next project together. And in the Seattle area, we are dealing with issues of housing affordability and access that are becoming more challenging for developers and for builders as prices continue to rise. Getting projects that can fit within the balance of being successful while also achieving a price point that is accessible is becoming more difficult. And so we will need to be working more creatively on new ways of addressing that issue within the urban walkable environment. So I'm looking forward to that meeting that's coming up next month.
And congratulations on that meeting to begin with, because not all partnerships are exploring the next project. So, so congratulations on that. All right, let's go to Danone North America and B Lab. Tell us about your plans and what are you looking to do differently, if anything?
Hear me?
Jose, do you want to start?
Sure, Catherine. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
So as next steps, Danone already certified about 30% of their global business, but they're in a journey to certify completely as a parent organization. So we'll continue working with them to certify other subsidiaries and also work with them on the SDG platform that I mentioned earlier that will be launching next year. In regards to what we would do different, I think since Danone North America was a pioneer, we had to learn as we went through the process. Now we can apply those learnings and have peer groups with other multinationals there, and just now we started the process. So it's a tremendous opportunity to connect, Danone with these other global companies that are joining our movement.
Awesome. Yep. And I was going to also add a little bit, expanding on what Jose brought up earlier with the movement builder principles that they're going to be launching. We're going to be really looking to support them and not only provide active feedback as that's launched, but also use it to really, expand our commitment to really further build the B Corp movement. So we're really, really excited about that. And then also partnering with them continually. We're always getting emails and phone calls from other companies about asking about our journey. And so I think that conversation keeps growing of how we deliver the best information and strategies, as well as tools for those peers and competitors looking to also join the movement.
Yeah, I really like that you all are seeing this as a responsibility to build a movement and take collective action. Thank you so much for sharing. And let's go to our longest lasting partner of over 60 years, Cargill and Care. What are your next steps, next plans, and what are you looking to do differently, if anything?
Hi there, this is Taryn. So I think what was so exciting about really taking the opportunity to celebrate our decade of impact, which we did last year, was actually taking stock of the impact of what we had achieved over that period of time. And we're really seeing that as an opportunity to really inform, that next phase. I think it's something that we've really, we've done each new phase. We've been really successful at taking those learnings. But what's unique about this is we've actually taken learnings over that 10-year period to really understand how we can, shape the ongoing evolution of our partnership. And that's been really exciting to do, and not just in terms of how we might design and structure our work together, but also taking stock of the learning of what it takes to do partnership. And actually something we're really excited about that we also published as part of our Decade of Impact was a actual learning partnerships report that we did with Business Fights Poverty, which we published last September, to really take stock of what it takes to build transformational partnership. And I think that's something that we want to try to continue. And actually we're taking these learnings and models across our sort of thinking about how we use that in partnerships development. So we're really excited about how we can build on the learnings and the impact that we've already had to date.
Wonderful, thank you. And Maria, anything to add to that?
I think Karen captured it really well. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you so much, folks. We have arrived at exactly 12:30. And if we could just take a minute to capture what we have learned today. If you could only see my sheet, it is crowded with little writing, and I will try my best to be succinct in the next 30 seconds to recap a little bit. Today we discussed the importance of trust building and relationship building, and thank you so much to our 6 featured partners for sharing all of your stories. We learned about articulating values, authentic communication, seeking first to understand, and having hard conversations now. We learned about the importance of investing early and often in trust building, in listening, being curious, welcoming others' curiosities. We learned about hurdles for private sector, especially in large scale companies, in going through this process. We learned about how to bring others along with you and leveraging your partnership to do that. We learned about planning and designing for scale. We learned about planning and designing for change, about what partnerships can achieve that people working in as solo are not able to. And last but not least, we learned about the importance of sharing with others and how this is critical in movement building and collective action. So on that note, thank you once again to our audience, our partners, our wonderful speakers, and hope to see you soon. Hope to see all of you very soon again. Please visit us on our website, synergos.org, where you'll be able to see and download a copy of our guide that has informed today's discussion. And once again, thank you and have a great day from Synergos.